So welcome, Long. I'm very happy to have you here. Before starting, before introducing you, I just want to tell you that I'm very super thrilled because I'm launching this English section here on my podcast, and you are my first guest this 2022. So yeah, big deal for me on the project. Thanks a lot.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to see you and to talk to you, and also to be the first English-speaking guest. That's an honor.
Thanks a lot again. So I'm going to start right off the bat with the first question that comes to my mind when I found you randomly on Instagram. Where are you from, and how you ended up doing this amazing job?
Well, that's a long story. I'm based in Freiburg in Germany, so I'm very close to the border to Switzerland. It's around half an hour to go there, and to France it's about 20 minutes. So very close to different borders to visit different countries. And I would describe myself like as a very creative person, and so I was always interested in making music. As you can see, there's some guitars in the back. I always loved making music, and somehow I was interested in photography, and so I got my first camera and just tried out a little bit. And I think the first trip where I really started landscape photography was when I was in Iceland. That was, I think, 2017. It was just for fun because I saw some photos of the Icelandic landscapes in the highlands, and it just looked amazing to me. And it really was when we were there. It was a beautiful trip, and I really wanted to capture like the scene there and the feeling that we had on this trip. And I just took my camera and took as many photos as possible. And I didn't do it with like a purpose in mind. And I just came back from the trip and had to go to the university. And I was most of the time a pretty bored student, so I was just sitting in the room and just posting the photos on Instagram, learning how to edit. It was just because I was bored, and that's kind of how it started. Because then we got some free time from the university, which was not usual because I was working at the time. But I had 2 weeks off, so I grabbed a friend and we went to Switzerland, to Italy, to Slovenia, and to Austria, and there are beautiful landscapes there too. And then it somehow became a thing. Like I tried to go out every weekend to take photos, and it was just fun. And then I noticed that people like are reacting to my photos on Instagram. And I just wanted to grow and put a lot of effort in it, and then it just happened kind of the way it's now.
Naturally. Yeah.
I mean, it takes time, of course. It's not like you start Instagram, just post a couple of photos, and then all of a sudden you're a photographer. But it takes time, and the more I did it, the more fun it was, the more I learned, and the more I could have imagined that this could be like a career. And 1.5 years ago, or almost 2 years ago, I quit my job and decided to become a full-time photographer.
Oh man, that must have been like a very hard decision to make, right? Like quitting your job, your traditional job, and just going through this risky path, adventurous path that you have chosen, right?
It was kind of hard because I love my colleagues. It was great work. I worked in an event management company. But at the same time, I knew that if I do like a lot of projects for clients, events and marketing stuff, that's cool and I like that. But if I could choose projects like based on what's fun to me and what my passion is, those projects would probably be a bit different. So I thought about, okay, what if I just approach clients and try to find my own clients and try to just do that what I love to do? Because I believe that no matter what you do, if you love it, you'll do it best. And if you do something that you're not perfectly passionate about, you probably won't do it as good as something else.
Yes, I agree totally. Take me through your travel routine as a travel content creator. Like, I'm very curious about like from the first thought to the fruition of that idea. Like, how's the process behind this travel content creation job?
Well, basically, most of the time I'm still staying at home. Like, I'm traveling roughly a third of the time, which is still a lot. I mean, like, traveling is pretty exhausting. and taking photos even more. So most of the time I'm at home, like doing some office work, and I'm not only doing travel photography, like I'm also doing a lot of video work and other social media work for clients. And so, yeah, really most of the time I'm at home, and then I always, like, after 4 weeks or 5 weeks at home, I really want to just leave again and just go on a trip and see something. And then I usually just do some research, see where I can go to, where I can get cheap flights or trains or anything, and see what I'm inspired by to find new locations. And then I'll just book flights, ask some friends or some other photographers if they want to join, and then we start a trip. And yeah, that's basically what I do most of the time. And on the trips, it's mostly getting up early before sunrise to take some photos, and then chilling at daytime, and in the evening taking some more photos.
It sounds awesome. Let me.
Thank you.
I think that in this kind of social media environment, influencer environment, a lot of times you must get this phrase of like, oh, you must be traveling full time. Your life must be so nice because you're always like enjoying like cool sunsets or great landscapes and just having amazing experiences all the time, which I'm pretty sure that you have. But like, as you said, like 50% or most of the time you're just at home working in front of the computer. So it must be very misunderstood.
It is definitely, because like people know traveling when they have free time, and for them it's just fun, and for me it's of course work, which sounds nice because like working from Norway, from Iceland is still amazing, but in the end it's work. Like, I'm not a person who would like get up very early in the morning, and I have to find myself out of the bed every morning. Like when we're getting up, like in summer in Central Europe, you have to get up like at sometimes 3 or 4 to climb up a mountain to be there at 5 or 6 when the sun rises, and that can be very painful sometimes.
Stressful, definitely.
Very stressful, and then like trying to fit in a lot of locations in a very tight plan, driving a lot, sleeping only 3 to 4 hours a day. That's exhausting, but it's also fun. I would say it's kind of like a roller coaster. Like normal, if you're just having a normal 9-to-5 job, everything is pretty constant. So like you get better moments and some problems in the job, and then it's a bit worse, but it's not as extreme. And for me, it's like I have those moments which are so amazing when I'm traveling. It's just everything that I want. And then sometimes it's the complete opposite. It sometimes happens that I visit a country and everything just doesn't work the way I want it to. For example, when I was in China, it took me 1 week to get the driver license. I had an accident. I couldn't get money from the bank account, and lots of problems. Or in Iceland, I got stuck in the river, and you have those very bad moments. That you probably wouldn't have with a normal job. So it's always up and down.
And I guess that's the behind the scenes part that nobody gets to see, right?
Like for most travel photographers, that's true. I try to, in my Instagram stories, try to share those negative moments too. Like people find it funny when we get stuck in the river, or if I lose a drone in the forest. Of course. That's always a shock to me, but it's an interesting story. So people are still interested in that. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just going to go back a little bit, and I want to ask you what type of criteria you use when scouting locations. Like, is it all improvised? Do you do like some kind of full research? Do you previously navigate on the internet just to discover new spots? How that process works?
Well, it depends on the country, of course, and on the time that I have. For example, if I'm going to Iceland, I will do very thorough research to find all the places, because we have very little time and everything is so expensive. You pay 700 euros for a car in the week, which is crazy.
Oh, Jesus.
So every day costs around 150 euros with everything. And so I try to put in as many spots as I can, so I have to do a lot of research. And then sometimes there are some trips which are a lot cheaper. For example, when we went to Jordan in November, December, we had a rough plan which locations we wanted to see, but we didn't have like a timetable. So it was not like sunrise, we have to do this and this. So we just said, okay, in the first days we're going to the desert, to Wadi Rum, and then we're going to see what we can do there. So that works in countries that are cheaper, and if I have a little bit more time. And in some countries, I have to make like a very specific plan, which locations I want to visit, for how long, how many photos I roughly will get out of a location. Because, I mean, for me, it's also a business. It's a passion, but it's also a business. So if I do a trip, I need to get my photos out of that. And if that doesn't work, it's like kind of like a bad investment. That sounds very hard.
It's like throwing away money. It's like that.
Yeah, it's not throwing out money, because like you still make experiences and still nice to be somewhere else, to meet the people. But from the business perspective, it's bad.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I totally get you. So let me be a little bit more honest. Your pictures are sick, really amazing.
Thank you.
My personal question is like, what do you search for when you're shooting in the field? Like, knowing that there are so many top quality landscape photos out there, like, what are you looking for? What are you after?
So my plan is always to find locations which are nice and spectacular, but in the same time not as famous as most of the like Insta spots or hype spots are, because that's sometimes pretty tough. For example, if you here in Central Europe, you have those very famous places like in Germany, Neuschwanstein, the famous castle. If you go to northern Italy, you have like the Lago di Brais, which is so famous that you can see it every day 10 times on Instagram, and it's still beautiful places, and I love to go there. But I try to find places which are as spectacular as the famous ones, but like maybe in different countries, and people haven't heard of them, haven't seen them. And that's why I always try to choose travel destinations which are not as popular. I've been to Kazakhstan, I've been to China, where it's kind of hard to get around without driver license. I've been to many different countries, and Jordan, for example, and I always try to find those places which aren't that famous.
Okay, that must be like the hard part also, because that's just sitting in front of the computer and being there for hours and hours just to find a very interesting blog in which you can find like a pretty cool and hidden location, and you just say, okay, this is me, I'm going here.
It's tough, definitely, but I love doing research. That's one of the parts that I enjoy the most. Is like going on Google Maps and checking the locations. I mean, some locations you can see on Instagram, some on Pinterest. Like the famous locations are easy to find. Oh yeah, of course. And then I just scan the area in Google Maps, look on Google Photos for nice landscape photos. I just go through every category. For example, if I'm going to Sweden and I don't know about those places there, I'll just look up every waterfall that's listed on Google Maps and check it out and see if it's worth to go there and visit the place. And then I try to make a list and just try to rate the places. For example, there's some places which are very spectacular, and so I give them a high rating. And I also can estimate how many photos that I will get out. For example, beautiful mountain lake sometimes just has one perspective, because you can't go any further because there are mountains and it's hard to climb. And sometimes you know that you can walk around, there's a hut there or cabin, and on the other side you can get the mountain, you can go down to the water and get a nice shot with a reflection, or take up the drone to the air, and then I can roughly estimate how much posts I will get out, and that helps me to like decide which locations I want to visit. Definitely. I understand. So the next question is a bit cliche, it's a bit abstract, but I just need to do it. Like, what's behind the eyes of a photographer? Like, what you guys can see that we cannot when shooting a scene like a landscape? I don't think it's something that I or we would see as photographers. It's something that other people just don't pay that much attention to. For example, if there's fog, people probably won't pay that much attention to. And for us as photographers, it's like, okay, there's fog, so the mountains have like a different feeling and the layers separate better. You get some fog in the trees and it looks like mysterious, or you get a nice sunset. I mean, everyone or everybody enjoys sunsets, but like when we have a sunny day, like sunrise and sunset is the only time that I shoot. So those are the things that I pay attention to, that other people also notice, but it's not like people don't see sunrise or sunsets. Other people do enjoy that, but I just try to make it rational. Like I see a sunset, I know that there's good light, and then I use the chance to take photos. And it's kind of the same with perspectives. Like what normal tourists would do in a beautiful place, just to take the phone and just hold it in, just snap a photo of the landscape. And what I would do in this situation is to think about the shot and how I would compose it. Like, for example, you can make a shot more three-dimensional and give it more depth when you add a foreground to it and when you have more layers in the background. And that's what I always pay attention to, like getting a nice foreground, which is maybe blurry, like a person or a subject in the photo is always important. Like some people just take photos of landscapes, which looks nice. But what I try to do to like have a point where the viewer of the photo can focus on is always to have a person in the shot, maybe a cabin, a car, but some kind of main subject in the landscape. Because otherwise it's just the landscape. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, sure. And everybody can take a photo of the landscape. Besides, not in the way you do, of course, but beside that, I think that people can relate when they see a human in the middle of the scene, or otherwise I can understand, like you can relate better with the vibes. For example, these sheds in the middle of the mountains with a foggy environment, like you can get the vibes, like the Lord of the Rings vibes. I can only imagine that. So yeah, I'm always engaging with that kind of content. So my next question is like, how you manage to balance the things you love to post or that you would love to post with the trendy and hot content that people are craving for nowadays?
Well, for me, that's not like a very difficult point. Like I'm already over it. Like I have a lot to do with like local photographers who are just starting Instagram. To them, everything is new, and they ask me the question quite often. And for me, it's not that I have to like say, okay, this is a photo that everyone likes, and that's a photo that I like. It's not as black and white. It's most of the times the photos that I like are the photos that people like. I know that some photos that I like are not spectacular enough for Instagram, and that's fine. Like I enjoy the mood of a photo or like the colors, and I know that's not something people would like stop on Instagram and watch for a few seconds because it's just not that interesting to them. So I try to keep those things out of my feed, but I also wouldn't post content that I don't like. Like, for example, I know if I go to Lago di Brais, for example, it's a nice example because so many people do it. I would get amazing photos. Like, I've been there like 2 times in the last 2 years. And I took photos for other people, but I didn't post them because I know the photos are good from there, but I don't want to have them on my profile because it's like people have seen it too often. It's nothing special. Because people still seem to like the photos, but that's not what I want to have on my profile, so I just keep that out. So it's like the middle part, the photos that I like and the photos where I know that other people will like them too.
It's difficult to find those spots, but also I just wanted to say a quick comment. You are very close to the Alps section, and this area around here, it's pretty amazing. It seems to be like a paradise. Even if you like these mountains scene and these hills and the green and the forests, you must be getting a lot of content out of this area, right?
Yeah, I do. Like, I don't plan trips to Switzerland or Austria that often because it's most of the time just spontaneous. If someone just asks me, hey, let's do a trip for for a weekend. Now I'm like always, yeah, let's go to Switzerland, to Austria, but I don't have to plan trips there because I'm so close. Yes. So I did that in the beginning when everything was just new to me, but right now it's just, okay, I need some photos of a nice mountain lake or waterfalls. Now I just check on my locations, and I usually save everything that I could find as location on Google Maps, and I just visit those places. So I'm there quite often, but mostly just as a spontaneous trip, but not like a planned through travel.
Sure thing. I've taken a quick look at your profile, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've seen and I've noticed that a key component of your posts are colors, this huge variety of colors. And my question is, how do you approach to that post-production part?
Well, I think I have two goals with that. The first goal is, of course, to have like a consistent Instagram feed, so everything doesn't look chaotic, so everything just should fit perfectly together, and the colors should be roughly the same on most of the photos, and that can sometimes be a bit limiting to a photographer, because sometimes it's spring, you go to the forest and everything is green, and then you go to the desert where everything is just orange or yellow, and then you go to the sea, to the coast, and everything is just blue, and you try to find a balance to it. But I do it this way, that I choose the photos based on what would fit side by side to each other, and then I try to edit the colors so that they're kind of similar. And sometimes I just change my styles. For example, most of the time in spring I try to bring in some more green tones. In summer, autumn, I try to bring in more orange tones. In the winter, I try to bring in more blues. But I try to keep the colors consistent. Like the orange tones are mostly the same in every photo, and the green tones are mostly the same. So that's what I really try to do in post-production. So my second goal is, of course, that people who see my photos will recognize them as my photos.
I can see a consistent, your feed seems to be very well organized and previously thought. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Actually, it's not like pre-planned. I normally just decide which photo I want to post like 5 minutes before I post. And I just quickly edit the photo and put it out. That's why sometimes it doesn't fit perfectly, but that's fine. It makes it more organically.
Oh yeah, of course, and that gives you a lot of freedom space, right? Just to be randomly thinking about, okay, I like this picture, I'm just going to post it with hashtags and the editing. You don't have to be like guessing which is going to be which kind of picture is going to fit better on the profile. That gives you a lot of freedom, right?
Yes, exactly. I'm trying to do everything less stressful and less like planned, so it's just easy for me. Like if I feel like I want to post something from Norway today, then I just post something from Norway, and if I want to post something from Jordan, I just try to make it fit and post that. But there's no pressure on me that I have to post like Norway for the next 2 weeks or Jordan for the next 2 weeks. So it's just however I want it. And if I want to switch my style because I think some of the new photos would fit better to a different style, then I just adapt my style a little bit.
Sure.
So that it's still recognizable.
Yeah.
But a bit
different.
Well done. Thanks.
Well done. So the last question, Long, is again, I've taken a quick look again at this big community of German photographers, because I've noticed that there's a lot of people from Germany in these days that are posting about traveling and trips, urban landscapes, nature photography on social media, and I've been following like 6 or 7 for a while. Like my question is, so how that works? Do you guys use this sense of community? Do you do like some scouting trips, or do you collaborate between you, or how that works?
Well, like the landscape community is quite big in Germany. It's pretty big in Germany. It's big in the US, and like for example in France, the community is just not as big. So it's kind of hard to just know everyone, but you kind of know like most of the names of the people who who have a larger following or have like very good photos. And for example, with local photographers, I keep in touch because we have like a big WhatsApp group with 100 people just from the region here. And we just talk about photography stuff. And if someone needs help, someone else can give an advice. And it's always nice to have a group of people here. And for the others in Germany, I know a few of them. Sometimes you meet each other during collaborations and then become friends and go on a trip. Or sometimes I'll just ask people if they want to join a trip if I don't have any other fellow travelers, or if I decide to go on a trip spontaneously. I just ask other people, and if they say yes, you spend some time together and build a nice relationship. And it's always beneficial for a self-employed person, because like if I can't do a job, or if I'm busy and someone asks me, hey kid, could you do some photos for me? I say, no, I don't have time, but I can recommend you this person. And it's the same with brands. Like if I work for an agency on one job and they are like, okay, we need 2 more persons, do you know anyone? And I was like, yes, of course, I know like a handful of people and I trust them, so I can recommend them, and they can do the same with me. Like some jobs that I have are coming from a recommendation of a other photographer or friend.
Okay, I get it. So you're constantly giving a hand to your to your colleagues, and also I guess that you must be getting a lot of inspiration, and I can see there's a very competitive and healthy way of just creating and being a community, right?
Absolutely. Like, it's not in every niche the same on Instagram. I think the landscape photography niche is especially pretty nice because people have the same passion and do the same thing. I heard that it's a bit different in like the fashion beauty niche, that people kind of sometimes don't get along with each other. We have that too in the landscape niche, but not as extreme. Like, we're doing the same thing. We're going out early to take some photos and try to chase the best location and the best light in the most beautiful countries. And so that's already that's already a lot of things that we have in common with the other photographers. So most of the times we get along very well with most of the people. I haven't had like any negative experience with other photographers.
That's glad to hear. Thank you so much, Long, for your time. I really enjoyed it a lot. It was it was very eye-opening to listen to what's behind like a person who is constantly traveling and taking pictures. So again, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And if one of the listeners here has some questions about traveling and photography, you can always just send me a DM on Instagram and I'll write back. And I'm always glad if I can help and give you some answers to the questions. And it was a pleasure to meet you, and hope you have a great evening.
Thank you a lot. And the same for you.
Cool.
Thanks.
See you.